Book 11, Number 1. These are the properties of the rational soul. It sees itself, analyzes itself, and makes itself as it chooses. It enjoys the fruit of this activity, unlike plants and animals that produce fruit for the benefit of others. It achieves its purpose within the fixed, limited time of life. Not in a dance, play, or other such like things where it's incomplete if cut short, but whenever life may stop, its work is full and complete, so that it can say, I have what is my own. It traverses the whole universe, the surrounding vacuum, and surveys its form. It extends to the infinity of time. It both embraces and comprehends the cyclical renewal of all things, recognizing those who came after us will see nothing new, nor have those before us seen anything more. In a matter, whoever is 40 years old with great understanding has seen by virtue of the uniformity that prevails in all things, everything that has been, and all that will be. The rational soul loves their neighbor, truth, modesty, and values nothing more than itself, much like law. Thus, a properly oriented rational soul in no way differs from just laws in its nature. 2. You will set little value on pleasing song, dance, and sports if you deconstruct them into their constituent parts to ask yourself, am I controlled by this? For you will be prevented by shame from confessing the truth. In all things, except virtue and the acts of virtue, examine their individual parts, and through this division, come to value them less. Apply this rule also to the whole of life. 3. What a soul that is ready at any moment to be separated from the body, to be either extinguished, dispersed, or continue to exist. This readiness to depart from life comes from your own judgment about death, not mere obstinacy, as with the Christians, but considerately, with dignity, and in a way that persuades others without tragic show. 4. Have I done something for the general interest? Well then, I had my reward. Let this always be present in your mind, and never stop doing such good. 5. What is your art? To be good. And how is this accomplished well except by the general principles, some about the nature of the universe, and others about the proper constitution of mankind? 6. At first, tragedies were brought on stage as a means of reminding people of natural life events. That, if you are delighted with what's on stage, you should not be troubled with what takes place on the stage of your own life. For you see that these tragedies must happen, even to those who cry out in distress, O Citharon. Indeed, some things are said well by dramatic writers, such as, if the gods neglect my children and I, this has its reason too. And again, we must not chafe and fret about what happens, and reap life's harvest like wheat's fruitful ear, and other things of the same kind. After tragedy, the old comedy was introduced, which had a magisterial freedom of speech, and by its plainness of speaking was useful in cautioning the audience against insolence, which inspired Diogenes in his works to instill the same lesson. But the middle comedy, which came next, gradually sunk down into mere mimicry. That some good things are said even by these writers, everyone knows, but the whole plan of such poetry and drama, to what end does it look? 7. How plain does it appear that there is not another condition of life so well suited for philosophizing as this which you're now living? 8. A branch cut off from the adjacent branch must of necessity be cut off from the whole tree. So too, when people are separated from each other, they fall off from the whole social community. A person who by their own volition separates themselves from their neighbor when they hate and turn away from them is like a branch cut off. They do not know that they have at the same time cut themselves off from the whole social system. Yet, human beings have the privilege obtained by Zeus, who framed society to grow again to that which is near to us, and become part of the whole again. However, frequent separation makes it difficult to be brought into unity and restored to your former condition. A branch that has always grown together with the tree is not like a branch that was cut off and grafted back on. For this is what gardeners mean when they say that it grows with the rest of the tree, but does not have the same mind. 9. Just like those who try to stand in your way when you're acting according to right reason will not be able to divert you from proper action. Do not let them make you lose your kindness toward them. Be on your guard equally in both manners, not only in the matter of steady judgment and action, but also in the matter of gentleness toward those who try to hinder or otherwise trouble you. It is a weakness to be vexed at those who oppose you. Allow them to divert you from your course of action, or give way to fear. For whoever acts out of fear or turns away from others, who by nature are our kinsmen and friends, are deserters. 10. There is no nature that is inferior to art, for the arts imitate the nature of things. But the most perfect and complete nature cannot fall short of the skill of art. Now all arts do the inferior things for the sake of the superior. Therefore, the universal nature does so too. This is the origin of justice. And in justice, the other virtues have their foundation. Justice will not be observed if we either care for trivial things, are easily deceived, careless, and changeable. 11. If things that disturb you do not come to you, you will seek them out. Let your judgment about them be at rest, and they will remain quiet, and you will neither be pursuing nor avoiding them. 12. The spherical form of the soul maintains its shape when it is not extended toward any object, contracted inwards, dispersed, or sinking down. But when it is illuminated by the light, it reveals the truth of all things, and the truth in itself. 13. Suppose anyone despises me, then that is their concern. I will focus on this, to not be discovered doing or saying anything deserving of contempt. Shall anyone hate me? That is their issue. I will be mild and benevolent toward everyone, ready to show them their mistake, not reproachfully, nor yet as making a display of my abilities, but nobly and honestly, like the great Phocion. For the inner self ought to be seen as if by the gods, neither dissatisfied with anything nor complaining. For what evil is to you, if you are now doing what is agreeable to your nature and are satisfied with what's suitable to the nature of the universe, since you are a human being placed at your post to do what is the most common advantage? 14. People despise and flatter one another, wishing to raise themselves above and crouch before one another. 15. How unsound and insincere the person who says, I will deal with you in a fair way. For what are they doing? There is no occasion to say what will show itself by action. The voice ought to be plainly written on the forehead. Someone's character immediately shows it in their eyes, just as lovers can read everything in their eyes. The man who is honest and good ought to be exactly like a man who smells strong, that a bystander near to him will notice it whether they choose to or not. The pretense of simplicity is like a crooked stick. Nothing is more disgraceful than a false friendship. Avoid this most of all. The good, simple, and benevolent show all these things in the eyes, and there is no mistaking them. 16. As to living in the best way, this power is in the soul if it's indifferent to things which are frivolous. We can see these things are frivolous if our rational faculty can examine these things independently, and together, recognizing that they do not create our perceptions nor come to us. Rather, these are immovable parts of nature, and it is we who produce perceptions about them. Therefore, it is in our power to refrain from forming these perceptions, or wipe them out, where they're imperceptibly developed without our awareness. This can be attained if we remember that such attention will only be for a short time, and then life will be at an end. Besides, what trouble is there at all in doing this? For if these things are according to nature, it should be easy to rejoice in them. But if contrary to nature, seek what is comfortable to your own nature and strive toward it, even if it brings no reputation. For everyone is allowed to seek what is in their self-enlightened interests. 17. Consider where each thing has come from, what it consists of, and what it will change into. and what kind of thing it will become after it is changed, understanding it will sustain no harm in that process. 18. If any have offended you, consider first, what is my relation to others, and that we are made to help one another. Consider whether you have been made to guide or direct them, as a ram over the flock or a bull over the herd. Examine the matter from the first principles. If all things are not mere atoms, then nature orders all things. If this is so, then the inferior things exist for the sake of the superior, and these for the sake of one another. Second, consider what kind of men they are at dinner, in bed, and so on, particularly what pressures and perceptions influence their acts and what they take pride in. Third, that if people act according to good reason, we ought not to be displeased. But if they do not conduct themselves according to reason, then it's clear that they have done so involuntarily and out of ignorance. For as every soul is unwillingly deprived of the truth, it is also unwillingly deprived of the power of treating every other person according to their deserts. This can be seen when people are hurt, when they are called unjust, ungrateful, greedy, and in a word, wrongdoers to their neighbors. Fourth, consider that you have also done many things wrong, and are as imperfect as others. Even if you abstain from certain faults, you still have the disposition to commit them, and have only chosen not to do so through cowardice, concern about reputation, or some other ignoble motive. Fifth, consider that you don't understand why people choose to do wrong or not, for many things are done with reference to particulars of circumstance. In short, someone must learn a great deal to enable them to pass a correct judgment on someone else's acts. Sixth, when you are vexed or grieved, recall everyone's life is only a moment, and after a short time we are all laid out dead. Seventh, that it's not the actions of others that disturb us, for those acts have their foundation in their ruling principles, but rather it is our perceptions that disturb us. Eliminate these perceptions and resolve to dismiss your judgment about an act as if it were something grievous, and your anger in respect to it will vanish. How then shall I take away these perceptions? By reflecting that no wrongful act of another brings shame on you. For if the shameful acts of others shame you, you would of necessity do many things wrong and become a robber in everything else. Eighth, consider how much more pain is brought on us by the anger and vexation caused by such acts than the acts themselves. Ninth, consider that a good disposition is invincible if it's genuine. For what will the most violent man do to you if you continue to be of kind disposition toward him, and, if opportunity offers, gently admonish him, correct his errors at the very time that he is trying to do you harm, saying, "Not so, my child. We are constituted by nature for something else. I shall certainly not be injured, but you are injuring yourself, my child." Show him with gentle tact and general principles the truth of this, and that even bees do not do as he does, nor any animals which are formed by nature to be gregarious. And you must do this without hypocrisy, rancor, or reproach, but affectionately, and not as if you were lecturing him, nor yet that any bystander may admire whether he is alone or not. Remember these 9 rules, as if they're a gift from the Muses, and begin at last to be a man while living. But you must equally avoid flattering and being angry with people, for both are unsocial and lead to harm. And let this truth be present when you feel the excitement of anger, that to be moved by passion is not manly. Mildness and gentleness, as more agreeable to human nature, are more manly. He who possesses these qualities possesses strength, nerves, and courage, not the man who is subject to fits of passion and discontent. For in the same degree in which a mind is nearer to freedom from all passion, in the same degree is also nearer to strength. As self-pity is characteristic of weakness, so too is anger. For those who yield to pain and anger are wounded and have chosen submission. But if you will, receive a 10th presence from Apollo, leader of the Muses, that to expect bad people not to do wrong is madness, for whoever expects this desires an impossibility. To allow people to behave wrongly toward others and expect them not to do wrong to you is both irrational and tyrannical. 19. There are 4 principal aberrations of the mind you should constantly be on guard against, and when you have detected them, to wipe them out. These are thoughts that are unnecessary and thoughts that have a destructive effect on social cohesion. Thoughts that are dishonest or disingenuous, for it is absurd for someone not to speak honestly. The fourth is when you should reproach yourself for anything, for this is evidence of the divine part of you being overpowered and yielding to the less honorable and perishable part of the body and its base pleasures. 20. The aerial and fiery parts of your nature have an upward tendency, yet remain in obedience to the universe and stay in place within the body. Similarly, the earthly and liquid parts, though their tendency is downward, are raised up and occupy a position contrary to this tendency. In this manner, the elemental parts of your body obey the universe by remaining fixed in the body until the universe decides it's time to pass. Is it not strange that your intelligent part is the only one that should be disobedient and discontent with its place? Unlike other parts, no force is imposed on it, but only those things which are conformable to its nature. Still, it does not submit, but is carried in the opposite direction. For the movement toward injustice, intemperance, anger, grief, and fear is nothing else than the act of one who deviates from nature. When the ruling faculty is discontented, it deserts its post, for it is constituted for piety and reverence toward the gods in the same manner as it is toward justice. For these qualities are understood under the generic term of contentment with the natural order of things, and even more fundamental than acts of justice. 21. A person who does not have a consistent goal in life cannot be constant throughout their life. But what I have said is not enough, unless this is also added: what this goal ought to be. For as there isn't consensus about what the majority consider good except those things that promote the common interest, therefore we ought to commit ourselves to shared political interest. For whoever directs all their efforts to this will make all his acts consistent throughout life. 22. Think of the country mouse and the town mouse, and of the alarm and trepidation of the town mouse. 23. Socrates used to call the opinions of the many by the name of lamai, bugbears to frighten children. 24. The Lacedaemonians at their public spectacles used to set seats in the shade of the strangers, but themselves sat down anywhere. 25. Socrates excused himself for Perdiccas for not saying to him, "It is because I would not perish by the worst of all ends, that is, receive a favor and then be unable to return it." 26. In the writings of the Ephesians, there was this precept: constantly think of those from former times who practice virtue. 27. The Pythagoreans bid us in the morning look to heaven and be reminded of the stars, which continually perform their work in the same manner, and to be reminded of our purity and openness, for there is no veil over a star. 28. Consider what a man Socrates was when he dressed himself in a simple skin, after Xanath had taken his cloak and gone out. Consider what Socrates said to his friends who were ashamed of him and withdrew when they saw him dressed like that. 29. Neither in writing nor reading will you be able to lay down rules for others before you have first learned to obey the rules yourself. Much more is this the case in life. 30. A slave you are. Free speech is not for you. 31. And my heart laughed within. Odyssey 4:13. 32. Virtue they will curse, speaking harsh words. Hesiod, Works and Days 184. 33. Looking for a fig in winter is a madman's act, such as one who looks for their child when it is no longer allowed. Epictetus 3:24-87. 34. When someone kisses their child, said Epictetus, they should whisper, "Tomorrow perchance you will die." But these words are a bad omen. No word is a word of bad omen, said Epictetus, which expresses any work of nature, or if it is so, It is also a word of a bad omen to speak of the ears of corn being reaped. Epictetus 3, 24, 88. 35. The unripe grape, the ripe bunch, the dried grape, all changes, not into nothing, but into something which does not yet exist. Epictetus 3:24. 36. No man can rob us of our free will. Epictetus 3:22, 105. 37. Epictetus also said, "A man must discover a method for giving our consent. In respect to our actions, we must be careful that they are made considering circumstances consistent with social interest, and to regard the value of the objective. As to sensual desire, to altogether keep away from it. As for avoidance, we should not show it with anything not within our power." 38. The dispute, then, he said, is not about any common matter, but about being mad or not. 39. Socrates used to say, "What do you want? Souls of rational men or irrational?" Souls of rational men. Of what rational men? Sound or unsound? Sound. Why then do you not seek for them? Because we have them. Why then do you fight and quarrel?